the situation? You remember anything?
Sir, we were about to start correctness of an algorithm part.
Exactly. Yes, yes. Yeah. Proof of correctness. Yes, this is a very small topic, so mostly we will complete it by today. So let us just. Can you see the screen slides?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes. Okay. So this is yeah, these things we already discussed, but let us have a quick recap. So first of all, what we did was we defined an algorithm, both formally, informally, from every aspect. Even though it is known to all of us right from first year at least, or maybe before that. So that was covered. Then we were interested in finding out why algorithms are to be studied as a subject in the course of computer science and engineering. The reason for this was the computers are not very fast, infinitely fast. They are fast, but and memory is not free. So efficient algorithm. So space and time. Time means computational time. Space and computational time are considered as valuable resources, and we should be able to write algorithms which can consume time and space very less. So that is the challenge. So whenever we develop an algorithm, these two things should always be there in our mind. Like we should consume less space and we must finish our algorithm in less computational time. So these things, these resources have to be used wisely or judiciously. So that is very important. That is the reason why this course is there and this course is still relevant after maybe 60, 70 years of inception of computers. And then we went to discuss the stages of algorithm development, and stages of algorithm development, as all of us know, it is describing the problem first of all, and then identifying a suitable technique. Suppose let us consider the example of sorting problem. Then we can describe the problem very easily, or every problem, whatever may be the problem, you should be able to describe it very easily because the algorithm designer or the person who develops the algorithm should know how to how to describe the algorithm properly. Then we have to identify a suitable technique. So it's a problem. So there will be a solution. There will be mostly a mathematical solution that is to be identified. Then this solution has to be put into the language of algorithms. So that is the next step. Then after that, we need to submit a proof of correctness of the algorithm. It proves that the algorithm will work in any instance, for any instance, under any circumstance, the algorithm will run and it will halt with the correct answer. That is one of the primary requirements for the algorithm. It should halt with the correct answer. So that fourth step is what we did not discuss so far. And today we are going to do it. And by that, or if we finish the fourth step also, then we are in a position to write algorithms for any problem. And in the subsequent lectures and after this, the rest of the modules of this syllabus covers a lot of algorithms from different domains. And since we know how to write an algorithm properly, we can find solutions to all these problems, and we can write algorithms and we can analyze their complexity. Maybe if we can write the proof of correctness as well. So this is the task for the entire course. So and we are about to learn what is the proof of correctness and how will you write the proof of correctness for an algorithm. For that, I told you we consider insertion sort as an example. And in the last class, I think I have provided an overview of insertion technique. Insertion sort, even that is not required because insertion sort was extensively covered last time in last semester. And I asked you to recollect the major points in insertion sort, and I guess you have done that. So we can directly go and see what is happening or how to write or how to submit the proof of correctness for insertion sort. So our objective is very simple. We are claiming that insertion sort will always give you the sorted array. So you know the input for insertion sort or any sorting algorithm is an unsorted sequence, and the output will be a sorted sequence. Maybe this is, since this very particular example deals with uh, in sorting in ascending order. So we will consider it as an example. Very easily you can convert this into descending order as well. And there are many other sorting algorithms, all those we can use. And for proof of correctness, for all those algorithms also you can write. But before that, we will use this as an example. This is an illustrative example. This is an illustration how to write a proof of correctness with the help of insertion sort. That is what we are going to look at today. You can see the method is known as loop invariant method. So this is the way in which we will commonly write the proof of correctness for any algorithm. This is known as loop invariant, especially when the algorithm consists of loops. So in most of the algorithms, most of the real world algorithms, if the problem is a little bit complex, then there will be loops. Unless the problem is very simple, just like adding two numbers, there won't be any loops. So it's quite trivial. So we don't need any proof of correctness for such algorithms since they are trivial. But here in the case of larger algorithms or complex algorithms where we have to do something about the mathematics behind the algorithm, then there will be definitely loops. That is your experience. So we can intuitively suggest that for all algorithms which are relatively complex, you will have loops. So that is why we are using the loops. The loop invariant means there will be loops. So this is the concept used. So now let us, before defining how to apply loop invariant method, or before seeing how to apply loop invariant method, let us define what is a loop invariant and how are we going to proceed. A loop invariant is a property of a program loop. So it is just a property of a program loop. So your program will have loops, and this loop we are assigning a property. So the person who is going to submit the proof of correctness, it is his responsibility to give a loop invariant or define a loop invariant. So our first task in proof of correctness is to write a loop invariant. Loop invariant can be anything, but this should take you logically to the proof of correctness. You cannot use anything because it should take you to a logical conclusion that the algorithm is correct. In such way, in such a way, you have to define the loop invariant. So loop invariant is just a property of a program loop, which should be true before and after each iteration. So loop is iterations. You will have a number of iterations. So loop invariant is just a property that is true before the starting of the loop and before the starting of each iteration and at the end of each iteration. So this is the loop invariant. You can define any loop invariant. It should be just a property. So in our insertion sort, what we are going to define the loop invariant is. So our first job is to identify a loop invariant or define a loop invariant. So what is our loop invariant? Our loop invariant is at the start of each iteration of the loop of lines 1 to 8. So this loop we are going to consider. We can have several loops in the same algorithm. So whichever loop you need, you can consider, but it should be at the heart of the algorithm basically. So the loop which you are going to consider will be at the heart of the algorithm. So here in this insertion sort, you can see the entire insertion sort is done from 1 to 8, line number 1 to 8, and it is overall a part of a loop. This for loop, you can see this is the indentation. So this all these instructions right from 2 to 8 are part of the loop which is given or starting at instruction number 1. Now you can see what is our loop invariant at the, so we identified the loop. Now we are suggesting a property for the loop, which is known as loop invariant. What is that property? The subarray A1 J minus 1. So this is a subarray. So our overall array is A from 1 to n, and J will grow from 2 to A dot length. This A dot length you can roughly take it as n, because A dot length is the total number of elements in the array, which is n. So J will be from 2 to n. So at every stage, we will have something known as 1 to J minus 1. This A has something known as 1 to J minus 1, or we will consider only these elements. We will consider only these elements, A 1 to J minus 1. Those specific set of elements consists of the elements originally in A 1 to J minus 1 itself, but in sorted order. So if you remove this clause, it will be a little easy. It consists of the elements in sorted order. So It's actually the elements in J1 to J minus 1 itself. But if you score off these things, it will be very easy to read and understand. So can you tell me what is the actually in our insertion sort algorithm? You go back to last semester classes, and in our insertion sort algorithm, what actually A1 to J minus 1 consists of during every iteration? What is this? If you come back to the algorithm, you can see, suppose we have 8, 3, 1, and 9. This is our array. So how the insertion sort will proceed? Last class also we discussed how insertion sort will proceed. Initially, J will start from 2 to length. So this is array index starts from 1 in this particular algorithm. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the indices. So initially J is equal to 2. J is equal to 2 means what is A in 1 to J minus 1? This J minus 1 will be equal to 1. What? Yeah, that will be 8. Is that sorted? Is that sorted?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
A,
Yes, sir.
yeah, it's sorted because it is trivially sorted. Every one element array is trivially sorted. So it is sorted. So at the first iteration, when J is equal to 2, it is sorted. A J 1 J minus 1, that is A 1 to 1, that is sorted. Okay. Now if you increment J, what will happen? J will go to 2. So what the insertion sort suggests is, so now this was our sorted subarray. This was our sorted subarray and this was our unsorted subarray. To the right, that is your unsorted subarray, and to the left, that is your sorted subarray. Now, in the next iteration, when it completes, what will happen? How this will be changed? Okay, I'm not,
8.
yeah, explaining. I'm not explaining with the steps because it is out of the scope of this course. You can just tell me how the insertion sort works. What will happen in the next step? This 3 will be taken from here and 3 will be put here, and where it will be put?
so 8 will replace 3.
Yes, 8 will be,
381.
yeah, 8 will be shifted to, 8 will be shifted to this position and 3 will be inserted here, 1 and 9 will be here. Now, since we are in J is equal to 2, J is equal to 2 is changed to J is equal to 3. So what we are saying, J equal to 1 to A of 1 to J minus 1. What is J minus 1? Since J is equal to 3, this is equal to 2. What about the status of the array A 1 to 2? Is it sorted?
Yes, sir.
It
Yes,
is
sir.
sorted. You can see it is sorted. Now what will happen when J is equal to 4? So now consider J is equal to 4. What will happen? In this step,
Array will be
this
3, 8, 1.
yeah, 1 will be taken from here and 1 will be inserted. First 1 will be compared against 8. Since 8 is bigger, since 1 is taken out from here, this will act as a hold or vacancy. To this vacancy, this 8 will be pushed and we will consider inserting 1 here. But we will, when we compare against 3, we will understand that 1 is even lesser. So this 8 has been pushed to this position. So this is a hole now. This is a vacancy now. To that vacancy, 3 will be pushed and 1 will be inserted here as we reached at the beginning of the array. You can see this while loop will go up to 0. I mean, index is equal to 1. So that will be inserted, or else you can intuitively tell that this will be the status. The 1 will be inserted here and 8 will be, 3 will be here and 8 will be here. This is the status. If you know the insertion sort algorithm, you can very easily see that this is what is happening. So here it is 3. Yeah. Here it is 3. And this is 8 and remaining one element 9 is there. Okay. Now J is equal to 4. What is the status of A1 to J minus 1? That is A1 to 3. What is A1 to 3? 1, 2, 3. Is it sorted?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, it is sorted. It is sorted. Now what we are doing in the last step, this 9 will be taken out and 9 will be compared against 8. So no need of pushing 9 to this position or to the right. I mean, no need of pushing 8 to the right since 9 is greater than 8. It will be inserted in its original position itself. So now you can see J is equal to 5 means what is happening? A 1 to 4, A1 to 4 consists of elements 1, 3, 8, 9, and we have nothing in the unsorted part. So this case also A is equal to 1 to 4, it is sorted. So this is our loop invariant. What is our loop invariant? A from 1 to j minus 1 will always be sorted. This is our loop invariant, and this is how we can simply look at it and identify it. Okay. Now we can just see the exact process. Before explaining the exact process, I wanted to tell you what is our claim and how can we establish that our claim is true. Our claim is true because we observed it just now. For a simple small array, we run the algorithm with pen and paper and we identified that our claim is true. Now this is loop invariant. So this is a property of the loop. You are identifying a property of the loop. There may be many properties for the loop that you are writing in, and such a property you have to pick up, and not a random picking. If you pick up a property, it should help you to prove that the algorithm is correct. At the end of the algorithm, this is correct. So how this can be done formally? If you get a question, how will you write this? For that, some terminologies have to be introduced. These are loop initialization, maintenance, and termination. So first task is, I told you, we have to identify a loop invariant. And in this case, loop invariant, what is a loop invariant? Loop invariant is a property of a program loop. So we have identified a property of a program loop. And here in this case of insertion sort, always the subarray A1 to j minus 1 is sorted. And it consists of the elements originally in j1 minus j1 j minus 1 itself. You can observe that also. Then in loop invariant method, for proving correctness, one must show three things about the loop invariant. So three things have to be done. So it is a systematic process. First step is initialization. It is true prior to the first iteration of the loop. We have already done that. Prior to the first iteration of the loop means the loop is not started. So what is the loop invariant? J is about to start with j is equal to 2. That assignment is done. That means 1 to j minus 1 is this 8 only. That 8 is trivially sorted. It is already sorted. So prior to the starting of the loop invariant is correct. What is the loop invariant? Loop invariant is nothing but a sub 1 j minus 1 is sorted. This is our loop invariant. This is our loop invariant. So that loop invariant is correct before starting of the loop. That we have already seen. Okay. Now maintenance. Maintenance means it is true. If it is true for an iteration of the loop, it remains true before the next iteration. So during the starting of each iteration, it is to be true. During the starting of each iteration, it is true. That also we have seen. This is the starting of the first iteration. It is true. This is the starting of the second iteration. It is true. This is the starting of third iteration. It is true. This is the starting of fourth iteration. This is true. Then it is always true. So this is how you can prove the maintenance. So initialization means before starting the algorithm. J equal to 2 assignment is done because we must have a valid j value to compute this. So j is equal to 2 assignment is done. Right then you check it's true. Each iteration before starting or at the end of each iteration and before starting of the next iteration, it is true. Yes, we have seen that. This is known as maintenance. That is done. Termination. What is termination? Termination is a little tricky. You will be thinking that termination means at the end of this loop it is correct. Intuitively you will say that at the end of the loop it is correct, but termination is slightly different. When the loop terminates, so okay, loop is terminated. So when the loop will be terminated, that we need to think. But before that, let us read this. When the loop terminates, the invariant gives us a useful property that helps show that the algorithm is correct. So when the loop terminates, what we are doing is we will get some property from the invariant, which eventually helps us to prove that the algorithm is correct. So that is what from termination we mean. If you don't understand, if we come back to the next slide or come if you go forward, we will understand that. Okay. So termination, I'll tell you. Initialization is clear because it is explanation is given here for the sake of just explaining the things. And I guess you understood the initialization property. So what is our loop invariant? It is a property of the loop. And what is our property in this particular example? That A1 J minus 1 is always
sorted.
yes, always true. So what is initialization? Initialization means this loop invariant. So when I say loop invariant, you should understand it as a property of the loop. And in this particular example, it is just a sub 1 J minus 1 is true. That is in this particular example. If I give you bubble sort, it will be different. It can be different. Okay. But we are explaining with the help of insertion sort. Okay. So to show that loop invariant holds before the first iteration, what can we do? J is equal to 2, that assignment is done. Then the subarray then the subarray A1 J minus 1 that consists of just the single element A sub 1. Is this correct or wrong? Is this correct or wrong? When J is equal to 2, what is A J minus 1? It is correct only. It is correct only. So, and this is true since every one element array is trivially sorted. This is true. So, which is the original element also? That is the original element because our array starts with 8. If you go back to our example, you can see our array starts with 8. That is the original element there, and that is already sorted. Okay. So, initialization part is done. Now, maintenance part. What is maintenance part? The body of the for loop works by moving a j minus 1, j minus 2, j minus 3, and so on by one position to the right until it finds a proper position for a sub j. Is this correct or not?
Yes,
This
sir.
is, yeah, this is the reason why I asked you to refresh insertion sort and come. Because even otherwise, if you have not refreshed, don't worry. This we have already seen because from j minus 1 we are starting and we are pushing one element towards the right. First this fellow 8 will be pushed to the right to make a, suppose this is the j, then this will be pushed and then this will be pushed. So every iteration what we are doing is we are pushing one element towards the right only, towards the right, not to the left. And we are identifying a proper position for this guy. This one we are identifying a proper position and that is a sub j. So this is uh, done like this. Okay, so that is what is written here at the start here, initialization maintenance. So j minus 1, j minus 2, etc., etc., everything will be pushed to the maximum to the front of the array, to the front of the array, or either that condition is satisfied, the comparison condition that is satisfied. So that is why two conditions are there in the loop. You can see two conditions are there in the loop, either this or this. You can say, yeah. So on by one position to the right until it finds a proper position for a sub j. That is what is happening. At which point it inserts the value of j. This is just the insertion sort algorithm written in simple English. That's all. The subarray a sub 1j then consists of the elements originally in a1j but in sorted order. So this is also correct because we have already seen it. That is why before explaining this I showed you this false always. You can see here it is working, here it is working, here it is working, here it is working. Whatever loop invariant we have defined, it is working here. So that is the maintenance part. Now let us come to the termination part. I told you the termination part is a little not as straightforward as the other two steps. So here the condition for causing the loop terminates is that what, so here we need to think what is the exit or when will you exit from the loop. Condition causing the termination of the loop or exit of the loop. What is the condition for exiting the loop? If you go back, what is the condition for exiting the loop? J equal to 2 to n. So when the loop will be exited?
When
J
becomes 8, then
J is equal to length of array.
J is equal to n plus 1. When j is equal to n plus 1, the loop will be exited. Correct. So that is how the loop will be exited. So we need to think in the termination part, we need to think what makes the loop to exit, which condition, the violation of which condition makes the loop exit. So here the condition for causing the loop to terminate is that. So that is why this is known as termination. J is greater than n. J is greater than n means J is equal to n plus 1. When J is greater than n means J is equal to n plus 1 because the iteration steps is by 1. Okay. Substituting n plus 1 for J in the wording of loop invariant. So we have defined a loop invariant. We have a wording for that. And if this wording, what is the loop invariant here? A sub J minus 1. 1 second. Is it an important for? Okay, let us see. Yeah, just a second. Hello. Okay, okay. Okay, whatever. Hello. Yeah, that's done. Can you? Yeah, sorry for the interruption. Here, let us see what we are discussing. Yeah, here this is the loop invariant, and what is the wording of the loop invariant? Can someone read the wording of the loop invariant? At the start of each iteration of the loop 1 to 8, the sub array A. So this is the loop invariant is written here as it is written here. Now you can substitute what? If you go to the termination, what is to be substituted? Yeah. Substituting n plus 1 for j. Substituting n plus 1 for j. So our loop invariant is A sub 1 to j plus 1. I mean j minus 1. J minus 1 is sorted. This is the loop invariant. So what makes the loop to exit? What makes the loop to exit?
J is equal to n plus
J is equal to n plus 1. So you can substitute n plus 1 to this j. Okay, n plus 1 to j because loop has exited at the termination. So A equal to 1 to n is sorted. If you substitute that, you will get A is equal to 1 to n is sorted. And if you observe here, as A equal to 1 to n is original array, it implies the entire array is sorted. So once you substitute n plus 1 is equal to j for the wording in the loop invariant, we can have that the subarray 1 to n consisting of the elements originally in 1 to n. So it is the only array that we are having, but in sorted order. Now it has turned into sorted order. Before starting of the algorithm, it is not in sorted order, but now it is in sorted order. So as 1 to n is the original array, that implies the entire array is sorted and hence the algorithm is correct. So this is how you can prove that an array is or any algorithm is true or correct with the help of loop invariant method. So to summarize, what are to be done? First of all, define a loop invariant. Show that it is true before starting of the loop. This is known as initialization. Show that it is true during the running of the loop. This is known as maintenance. At the termination, what is the condition that is used to or the loop uses to exit from the loop? That condition you can put in the loop invariant so that it will help us to prove that the entire array is sorted. That is what we need to prove, and it is proven. So here, if you read the termination part once again, now you will understand it better. So I told you initialization and maintenance, they were straightforward, but here termination, it is not as straightforward because it is defined in a different way. So here you can see when loop terminates, the invariant gives us a useful property. Yeah, it has given us a useful property. What is the property? J is equal to n minus 1. That is the condition that we use to exit from the loop. So that property helped us to show that the entire algorithm. So it is when this value is substituted, the loop became or the entire array became sorted. j is equal to n plus 1. That single substitution at the termination step helped you to prove that a equal to 1 to n is sorted, or the array from a sub 1 to n is sorted. That is, the entire array is sorted. So this is how you can establish the proof of correctness for any algorithm which involves loops, and this is known as loop invariant method. So loop invariant consists of 3 steps: initialization, termination, maintenance, and termination. Okay, understood, everyone? And
Yes, sir.
of course, yeah, this is a explanation by example. Okay, so this is what is first module all about. We can have, this is the only new thing that you are going to learn from the first module. Okay, so any questions from this part? Any doubts? Like, so there will be confusions like which loop will you take, like that. So which is the heart of the algorithm? There will be some loop there that you can very easily observe and understand. Okay, suppose I give you matrix multiplication question, then you will have many loops. Like one loop will be there to read the two matrices. Then you will have a loop, a set of loops. For in fact, 3 loops will be there to multiply the matrix. Then you will have a loop to print the matrix, to print out the result. 3 loops will be there. So out of which, what loop will you take? If I give you matrix multiplication, is there any point in taking the loop for reading the matrices? It is not part of the algorithm even. Okay, you can just read 2 matrices without using any loop. You can write it. But matrix multiplication algorithm, if you want to write, then you have to write the 3 loops. Okay, for I equal to 1 to n, j equal to 1 to n, k equal to 1 to n if it is square matrices. Otherwise, you will have row number and column numbers. So that loop you need to take. Okay, whichever is relevant to the algorithm, that loop you should take. You may have several loops, but you should take the loop which is relevant to the algorithm. So technically, after writing all algorithms, we need to study or learn the loop proof of correctness also. We will do it for some algorithms. We will not do it for some algorithms. If it is really difficult, we will not do, because it is out of the scope of this level of a course. Maybe you can discuss it in PG level courses, but in this level it is not necessary. So, but wherever it is required, we will write also. But in the textbook, after every algorithm, the proof of correctness is given. Not even insertion sort. After every algorithm that we are going to learn in this course, you have the proof of correctness in the textbook, some of which we will discuss, some of which we will not discuss. But if you are too much interested, you can read that and you can ask me if you have any doubts. So based on today's class, you have any doubts?
No, sir.
Okay.
No.
So yeah. I think this is the only boring class to me. This is the only boring class, and afterwards the class will be very interesting. So tomorrow onwards we will be really diving into the algorithms which are really interesting. So this first module and especially this portion. So even I feel a little bored, but next day onwards it will, I promise, it will be very interesting. Okay, I don't know how you feel it today. Did you feel interesting, or it's okay, kind of okay situation, right?
Yes, sir, it was okay because we have studied it many times.
Okay, you already studied. I thought this you were not studied. That is why in this much detail I presented
The
this.
insertion shot was there like last.
Insertion sort it was there, but the proof of correctness.
Yeah,
Proof of
it was
correctness,
boring.
some faculty might have discussed it, but since I know this is there in this course, so I postponed it. So for my students, I was not discussed. So this was not discussed. Okay. Anyhow, if you don't have any doubts, then I think it's almost time. What to do, I don't know. It's just 2, 3, yeah, 9:36. Let us I'll give you an overview of the next module for the next 4 minutes or so, because it is not fair to stop early or to start early or to extend. Everything is unfair. Extending the class is also unfair. Stopping before time is also unfair. I'll just tell you what is the contents of the next module. So tomorrow or next class onwards, we will study second module. which is algorithm design strategies. First of all, I'll give you an overview of all the algorithm design strategies, algorithm design methods. Can you tell me, let us make it interactive. Can you tell me what are the algorithm design strategies? What you mean by algorithm design strategies? You can just suggest some names also. Whatever you remember, you tell me. It's just an informal question. In any way, you
Divide
can
and
answer.
conquer.
Yeah, exactly. Divide and conquer is one method. Then
Dynamic programming.
Greedy
yes,
method.
sir. Dynamic programming is there. Greedy method is there. Then
Brute
sir,
force approach.
brute force is there. Branch and bound is there. Recursive backtracking is there. So many algorithm design strategies are there, out of which some of the strategies we will learn, and we will learn some algorithms. Not only the strategies, by learning, just learning the strategies will not make you understand anything. We need to understand some of the algorithms which employs this strategy. So that is what is all about this module. And this module is really important. I think this is the content wise, this is the biggest module in our course. Rest of the modules are simpler and lighter, but this module is content wise very big, very huge. So many algorithms we need to learn. So all these algorithms will fall into any of these categories like divide and conquer, brute force, branch and bound, or dynamic programming, greedy. And you know, if some problems can be solved using more than one methods, you can use greedy approach as well as dynamic programming approach to solve the same algorithm. Okay, such things are also there. And there is no hard and fast rule. This method I will use only divide and conquer. Such things are not there. Even sorting algorithm, you can use divide and conquer as well as you can use other methods. For example, insertion sort is not divide and conquer, whereas quick sort is divide and conquer. So like that, several differences are there. So these are the various algorithms that we are going to learn in this module. And get ready. You can tighten your shoes for this, because this is going to be really interesting. Okay. So divide and conquer is there. Then we will learn optimization problem is not a strategy, but to learn these strategies, we should know what is optimization problem. Okay. So many of these approaches, especially greedy and dynamic programming, are applied for optimization problem. So you should know what is optimization problem. Okay. So that is a different topic. This stands apart, but still it is connected. Then we have brute force. Brute force, every one of us know. Brute force is just listing out all the possibilities and solving a problem, which is time taking, obviously. Then we have greedy approach. Many of the greedy algorithms we have already seen. Knowingly or unknowingly, they are greedy approach. For example, last year's Prim's algorithm, Kruskal's algorithm, Dijkstra's algorithm, all these are greedy approaches. Then we have some dynamic programming strategies that also we will discuss in this course. Then we have recursive backtracking. So these many are there in the syllabus. Apart from this, this branch and bound, several other methods are also there. But whatever is there in the syllabus, we will cover, so that the rest of the things you can learn in a later semester maybe, or you can do a self-study. So whatever is there in the syllabus, we will confine to those topics, because finishing the syllabus is also important. So that we can start with the next class, maybe tomorrow or day after, I guess. So with this, let us stop. It is exactly 9:40. Yes, any doubts?
So module 1 is only correctness of algorithm.
Yes,
And
yes, correctness
This
of
is, this
algorithm.
will be module 2 that we are going to start.
This is module 2. We are starting with module 2 with this algorithm strategies. But module 2 will be a large one. So for the exams, maybe I will mix up the questions. Okay, not exactly you can expect the first question from module 1, because module 1, what is the proof of correctness only. So for both CAT, FAT and all the exams, maybe I will mix up the questions. Module 1 and module 2 will be considered as a single unit. Okay. And the questions will be divided like that. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Then we can stop, I think. If you have any questions, you can stay back. Otherwise, you can leave. Even attendance downloading is not mandatory, because I'll get the attendance automatically. But let me see, out of curiosity, we have only 60. What happened to 5? I don't know. Okay, anyway. We can stop for today. See you all in the next class. Okay. Thank you then.
Thank you, sir.
Bye bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.